Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the CayVin Universe podcast. We're back together again in the booth after having some interviews separate. Today we have JoAnn Fawcett. She is the author of Midlife Magic and The Prince Was Wrong, Leaving the Narcissist Behind. JoAnn, how are you doing today?
I'm great. We're about to get some snow in Portland, so we're all going to race to the grocery store tonight.
Oh
Oh,
my.
nice. Yeah, we got snow for like half a day
Yeah, it was
in
nice while it
Texas.
lasted.
Yeah,
Uh,
it wasn't even an inch of snow, like
Yeah.
a centimeter of snow, but it's still good to see. Like, not, we don't always see snow in Texas.
Yeah.
Maybe once every other year
Yeah,
if we're lucky.
if we're lucky.
Yeah, so that's just the thing being in Texas. So I wanted to start kind of going back in time to kind of how your journey started, at least, as we have seen, or you can tell us more about it. So you were an active member in the Mormon Church for almost 30 years. So why did you leave the Mormon Church, and like how did that kind of lead you to these other journeys?
it's funny. I joined, my family was not members, so I joined the church because of my best friend's family, and I started going to church with them, and it was all great. And I didn't have any problems. I did marry several Mormon husbands who were not great husbands, but I left it when I met husband number seven, and he is in prison, and I wanted to spend more time with him, and all of a sudden, as we started talking about a broad spectrum of topics, I just realized I didn't feel guilty for not going to church all of a sudden, and I just decided I didn't need it. So it just kind of, no big trauma. I just said, okay, bye.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Did you have a lot of pushback from the community with that?
Um, no, it's like they're called bishops. It's the same as your minister, your local pastor. He was a little taken aback that I would choose somebody in prison over going to church.
Mm.
But the people still came to visit me, and I let them, and that was okay until I moved away and I stopped having that happen. So yeah, there was no big guilt trip or anything. And my like I said, my family are not members, so they didn't care. And my
Oh,
daughter left the church long before that, so she didn't care. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, see, that was seems like a smoother transition than
Hmm.
most.
yes, yes.
And
I'm
then,
grateful I had no trauma. It was just
yeah,
with the ex-husbands.
going through all these going through relationships with
Yes.
different husbands, abusive relationships, toxic relationships, how did that kind of shape you into the person that you are today?
That's a good question. So now we can end with the happy ending before we begin. Um, it really and unfortunately, I don't, and I say this kind of jokingly, but it's like I don't suggest people get married seven times just to figure things out. That one or two is plenty. Um, One preferably, but a lot of us don't get it right the first time. But it really helped me learn more about myself, what I want, how I need to stand up for myself, and how it's okay to, speak my mind. And I'm not an obnoxious person, but I am a Leo, and I feel that
Oh,
it's quite okay now to say what I feel, or say my thoughts, and not worry about what that person's going to think or say, or,
hmm.
I have the right to my opinions and my thoughts and my beliefs. And, um, but
Mm.
I'm not obnoxious about it. I don't cram it down anybody's throat. But again, I learned that I have to take care of myself. I have to set boundaries. I have a little list of like, well, my partner needs to have these major characteristics or we're just never going to get along. And before it was just, well, if I married a Mormon, everything's going to be fine. Well, that did not prove to be true. So
I was gonna say, I know you mentioned that your husband, is it your last husband that's incarcerated now?
he is number seven. He was there when I met him. He's still there. He
Hmm.
will most likely die there.
Did you meet him like through like a pen pal situation?
No, my roommate at the time, her husband is or was, I don't know their situation anymore.
Hmm.
He was in prison at the same one at the guy I married. And she came home one day and said, "Oh, I was visiting so and so, and I met his friend who was visiting with his mom, and he's really nice and he's smart and he's your age. You might want to meet him." And
Hmm.
I was thinking, "Oh, smart would be a nice change for boyfriends." And so I started writing him, and then I got approved to visit, and the rest was history. We courted for 5 years, and we're married for 20, and
Wow.
married him in prison.
Mm.
And yeah, so no, it wasn't a pen pal. We did meet in person, and I visited him almost every week and sometimes several times a week, depending on where he was at,
Hmm.
for 25 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's it like being like a prison wife, I guess you could say, because I know that's technically like the term,
No,
like,
that's great. There is a chapter about that in the Midlife Magic book, because it's a unique lifestyle, and unless you know the person, before they go in, so you already know what they're like.
Mhm.
I would not recommend. It's a great lifestyle. I mean, it's like it was okay,
Mhm.
but I mean, I was obviously the only one working. And back a long time ago, like in the 70s and 80s, there used to be really great hobby programs, and the guys could, earn a lot of money selling things, and it wasn't all, drug money or anything, but they were able to send money, legitimate money, home to their families to support their families. And so that's really not a lot of that is happening. So anyway, I was working, I had my own business. So I was, and I did move into his family house, but I was paying for all of it. It was mortgage free, but
Mhm.
it's really old, and I was paying for everything. So that's, you're kind of responsible for all the financial things. Now, he did have other family that was sending him packages and, postage and stuff like that, but
Mhm.
I was managing his house. Um, you go in and you visit in a big room with lots of people, and you're allowed to kiss and hug briefly at the beginning and ending of each thing. And during the visit, usually, unless the staff gets a bee in their bonnet and change the rules, you're allowed to hold hands.
Mhm.
Some places you have to sit across from the table, but we were usually at a place where, we've been at both. Sometimes you can only sit across, sometimes you could sit next to each other, but you couldn't be like arms all over each other and hugging each other all the time. And no big messy kisses and all that stuff. But, the kids could sit on their dad's lap, and it was just usually a lovely family atmosphere. And there's usually brilliant artwork on the walls of the visiting rooms that the inmates have painted. So, it wasn't a bad environment. And I only saw one fight in all those years. It was a husband and wife got into it.
Oh,
Um, and it got a little physical, so they had to be pulled apart. But other than that, the inmates aren't in there starting fights, and husbands and wives are bickering.
yeah.
But it's normally you're so glad to see each other that it's usually happy. But it's like it's an interesting lifestyle, because I was so busy managing my business. I was rather isolated. We didn't have any kids together, and my daughter was grown. So for a while she still lived in California. Then she moved to Oregon. So I didn't see family a lot. My siblings lived several hours away from where I was living. So I didn't in the beginning, because would get moved around a bit. Sometimes I didn't get to spend holidays with my family because I chose to go see him, and they weren't happy with that. And then like during COVID, there was no visiting during the whole year. So, or for the first year, and then they started having video visits, and then they started loosening up a bit. But it's like, your food comes out of a vending machine. Some places they stock fresher food, but it's not inexpensive. And when you're feeding your hungry partner and yourself and kids, if you have them, it can be a pretty expensive weekend. Um,
Mhm.
Uh,
and let's see.
Yeah. Eh,
And some places, the guys can run the microwave, and sometimes they can get their own food out of the vending machines. A lot other places, no, they're not allowed to touch that. They're not allowed to touch money,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So
Okay.
it's a weird life. I wouldn't do it ever again, and I don't necessarily recommend it.
And how did that lead? How did that lead you to? Well, when you met your current husband, have you already written books, or did you start writing after?
And just to be clear, we've been divorced almost 2 years. So.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
okay. I
Oh
see.
yes.
Yeah, I
That
apologize.
that's why there's the Prince was wrong book. It's all about him.
Oh,
oh,
okay. See, so can you
So
go and
yeah, he's a prolific writer. I didn't start writing anything until like 2019. um, he introduced me to the whole world of UFOs and aliens and fairies and certain things. And
Wow.
I used to go on the UFO speaking circuit, conference circuit, and speak on
Mm-hmm.
his behalf about his military experiences. But I met a wonderful woman who one day said, "Well, what's your story? When's your story coming out?" I go, "I don't write, oh, but you have a story." And so I started making notes, but it really wasn't until 2019, and I ran into somebody who was going to be facilitating a local writing group where you go, a small group of people, you have some writing prompts, you write, you might share what you wrote during the week, you meditate. It was really cool. And then COVID hit, her husband got ill and COVID hit, so that stopped. But I kept writing because by now I had the beginnings of several chapters for this book, and that was the Midlife Magic book. So I wrote about my childhood and why I got married so many times, being a Mormon, and then each husband basically got a chapter, and the inmate husband got three because we got along really well. So I wanted to talk about him and being a prison wife, and then how he introduced me to the UFO, all that stuff. And then it goes on to how I changed my life and embraced all that, and also embraced a magical practice and how I use my intuition and how I protect myself and all kinds of cool things because that's the path I'm on now. Um,
Mm.
and that's just led to better things. And then I moved during COVID. I moved from the family home in Northern California and came up here to be near my daughter and her
Yeah.
kids during COVID. And I couldn't see him anyway.
Mm.
And that just by then I really realized, well, when I got here and really realized, it's like the narcissism term came up, and I thought, that's what's going on.
Uh,
Mm.
Because he
mhm.
really, and I always knew he was a spoiled brat. It's always his way or nobody's way. And but as long as I was just going along with the flow and doing my work and helping him with his projects, then everything was cool. And all of a sudden I moved and we didn't get a chance to talk about it. And then explosions happened and he
Oh,
assumed I was leaving him and just went into commando mode. So
Mhm.
we spent a good 3 years trying to repair things, and then he'd blow up again and accuse me of all kinds of stuff. And so I really learned what a narcissist is like and
Mhm.
what that journey is like and how you deal with it. And I went into therapy, and then by the time we were getting the divorce, I really started working on the next book about
Yeah.
him because and what it's like to be with a narcissist. And
wow.
yeah,
And that's the prince was wrong.
yeah.
Yeah, that's oh man, quite a story. Y- and are you still into I know you said your last ex-husband got you into the whole UFOs and paranormal. Is that something you still follow or still into today?
I do follow it. I'm not as involved with it as I used to be. I haven't, well, I did speak at a conference in October, but it was, so I don't speak as much as I did.
Mhm.
I do go to, a friend of mine organizes conferences in California, Northern California, so I go to hers. Um, and actually, a year ago, October, another new friend, more of a witchy friend, she had
Mhm.
a conference also in Northern California in the Bay Area, but it was paranormal and witchy and UFO stuff all combined. So it's
Hmm.
called Mystical Minds. So I fit right in because because I love to talk about how the magic and the fairies and the all and the aliens who are very spiritual, how that all works together because we're all part of this major galactic community. So
Mhm.
my what I talk about now is more personal belief based than anything he was involved with. So I like that direction. But I go to them, I help my friend with her conference. I just am not as involved with them. And yeah, I promise not to talk about politics.
Oh, that's all
Most
right.
of the people in the UFO community who are my friends believe differently than I do politically. So we'll just
Uh,
leave it at that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that can always be tough.
Yeah.
And then what is your like definition or experience with elementals?
Oh, the fairies. I learned about them when I was married to Mark, number seven, and they're and the beauty of it is they're everywhere. They're out in the universe. They're all over this planet. But they live all over the place, and they're energy beings. They can become physical. They probably choose not to most of the time because it's difficult. They can take different forms. They can look like a little person if that's what you feel comfortable seeing. They can look like a little stick person. They come in different sizes. There's brownies, sprites, trolls, gnomes, fairies, all kinds of different ones. I've seen several. I've usually seen them through my camera, when the picture shows up, I usually see them that way, but I have seen them change into physical form a couple times. And they used to be all over the property in California where I was living. So I would leave them treats, and I still leave them treats because I have little beds for them here in my apartment here in Oregon. But
Oh,
you leave them treats on certain days, and you treat them like a member of the family. I mean, they are so tied to Mother Earth. That's their focus here. The ones here, they're
right.
very tied to Mother Earth. So they're very worried about the planet. And I treat them as a member of the family, and I try to make them comfortable. And at the California house, I had beds on the inside, I had little houses on the outside, and, you know,
What kind of treats do you leave them?
Yeah, that's a
pardon
good
me?
thing.
What kind of treats do you leave them?
Oh, well, I used to leave all kinds of things. I usually, and I definitely for the new moon and the full moon. I used to do it the quarter moons. And I do it for major holidays. I used to do it for all kinds of stuff, but they love sweets. So any kind of sweet, depending on if I'm making holiday cookies, they get some. It could be store-bought cookies. They don't care. Candy's great. Certain times, they would love mead, to drink mead. Sometimes it's just water. But I used to leave like nuts and bird seed and sweets and stuff, a combination, because when they were done sucking the sugar out, then the deer and the raccoon and the squirrels would all come have a feast as well. So those creatures don't come inside my apartment.
Yeah.
And yeah,
When
because that
when the night is over, then I throw the little thing out.
Mm.
So
wow. And like that's crazy because when you said like suck the sugar out, because we've seen foods like that that look like it just like got deflated, and it's like,
Mhm.
how did that
yeah,
happen?
yeah.
You
Wow.
know?
And in California, because there was a main ferry that ran the house, and there was one that ran the garden. But so I used to put treats in and out, but eventually I just left them all outside. But there was one time when after the treat night, then I saw the piece of chocolate in the dining room that I'd left for the inside group, and I could see little scratch marks on the chocolate. So
Oh,
it's like that was really exciting.
yeah. Yeah,
Oh man.
that's because when it comes to like UFOs and aliens, like you got the typical little green man or little gray man with the big eyes and little small mouth or whatnot, skinny body. But as people are getting more and more involved in UFOs and alien talks and believing, there's talks that may be different types of so-called aliens that maybe are you know have been here, maybe they're from somewhere else, but like there's different groups, like you say, elementals, fairies, even people within the taking magic trips have talked about
Mhm.
machine elves that they've seen. And then you have these groups of people that have all taken these trips,
Yeah.
and you have 4 out of 5 saying they saw the exact same thing. So it's like, well, if it was just in your mind, how did these different people see the exact same thing? But
Well, and it's like sometimes, and it's kind of the same way for my when I see ghosts. It's usually, I'll see a shadow. I can see movement. Now, the ones in California, if they wanted to tease me or if I had upset them, there were some of them who would like push me as I was going up or down the stairs, and um or my keys would disappear, or this piece of paper that I really need would disappear. And then once you let them laugh at you, and then I would ask really, really nicely and basically beg. It's like, could you please, 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 please help me find this? And all of a sudden, I'm looking at the same pile of paper that I've plied through, and there it is sticking out. Or there's my keys. It's like, huh, they weren't there.
Yeah.
Now they're
Yeah.
there. So
And
they're very wonderful and magical creatures, and a lot of alien species have elementals as well because they're great at they act as interpreters if you get like humans and aliens to different groups together that can't understand each other's language. So they're
Mhm.
great interpreters. But there's hundreds of species of aliens, and there are so many different types. So
and how do you feel about recently with the sightings with these, you know, drones, car-shaped drones and orbs? Like, what is your overall thought on all of that?
to me, orbs are usually fairies. Now, I know some people see faces or something, so some of it may have to do with paranormal. For me, the orbs have always been fairies. I know there's some, I don't know if they're called, used to call them T-rods or something. They used to be rod-looking things. Those are probably more alien type stuff, but I don't know exactly anything about them. But the drones, I don't know much about those. I know, um, was it early January? Because this is now February. It might have been early January or sometime in December. There was a big sighting here in Oregon, and there was like a medevac helicopter or airplane, and then other people saw them, but they like red lights going this way and that way, and so I don't know if they were always drones because it's like, and here's the thing. I mean, I'm sure we have drones,
Right.
aliens have drones, and so I don't know whose they were, but I definitely believe they weren't just kids playing with them because
Right.
the
Yeah.
ones here in Oregon, they were seeing them kind of in Central Oregon. Then they saw them shoot out towards the coast, and they were
Yeah.
seen by several people in several locations. So,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah, that's odd. And yeah, no telling, no telling. It's the lights that fascinate me too, because like I don't know if the orbs, okay, the orbs are a different thing, but the actual drones, it's like would the drones adhere to our standards of having the green and red lights and stuff? So that is kind of like I'm not sure. But then we started seeing these orbs, and then like you're
Mhm.
saying fairies, you have people saying it's biblical. It just yeah, it's quite an interesting
a-
Yeah.
and
time.
the orbs can have different colors, but I don't know that they necessarily, I don't think you would see them necessarily flying around like way up high where the airplanes are and stuff. I've seen them in forests and in historical buildings and things like that. But I'm not an expert. I just know what I've experienced. But I don't think that they would show up as this super bright light like a drone or a UFO, or I guess they're supposed to be called UAPs now or whatever.
Right.
But whatever, I'm not
Yeah.
politically correct.
Tomato, tomato.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
And
old. I call them what I know to call them.
yeah, exactly. And do you think, like, especially when it comes to like magic, and does that kind of refer to like the dark arts? Like, do you think any of these
No,
spirits
I
are,
do know dark arts. I am
yeah,
so totally a white witch. And like I tell people, witchcraft is just science. It's following natural laws to help yourself to create your best life. Now, there are people who use dark arts, and there's been a few occasions where I wished I probably did, but I won't and I don't. There might be a few people I want to do something to, um, but I use it for simple things. I create intentions for what I want in my life. Does it always happen immediately? No. It's taken a long time for this house in California to finally go on the market. I wanted to sell it years ago, but anyway, so sometimes it takes time, and sometimes if it's not in your highest good, it's never going to happen.
Mhm.
And some people may say, well, you can do that just with prayers, or not everybody's a witch that sets intentions. But I have some divination tools. I have crystals. I have all kinds of cool little things here. I do altars, especially for the different seasons, and I celebrate the witchy holidays, I guess you call them. But so for me, it's just following natural laws to create my best life and help me tune in with nature.
Yeah, that's good.
That is
I
really
don't
good.
impose it on anybody, but
Right? Yeah,
sometimes
see.
my daughter will ask for help.
Yeah. Do you get into as far as like tarot card readings and things like that?
I do. I have a few sets of tarot and oracle cards. I use them mostly for myself, but a lot, so every now and then my daughter and I will sit down together and, we either use her deck or my deck or
Oh,
whatever. And, or, yeah, so I do.
yeah.
I don't do a lot of readings for anybody else,
Yeah.
but,
Hmm.
That's definitely a fascinating world.
Yeah.
I don't have a shingle out saying I'm going to do readings.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah. Let that be known.
Yes.
But and then as far as your books, where could people get those? And then do you have your website or any other social media or any other?
I do. Well, I have, yeah, the two books. I have a website, JoAnnFawcett.com.
Okay.
So both of them, and the links on there probably take them to Amazon. But
Mm.
I also, because I self-published Midlife Magic under my old married name, but the other one I went through a hybrid publisher. But anyway, both books are on Amazon. There's also a healing journal that goes along with the Narcissist book on Amazon called Pathways to Healing,
Mhm.
because I found that writing and journaling, that's part of my healing journey. So if people are inclined to, like to write out their feelings or thoughts, that's a possible way. And I have several prompts, and it's geared towards if you're dealing with a narcissistic situation. And, again, narcissism can be anybody in your life. It could be your partner, your school friend, your best friend. It could be your parent, your child, your work colleague. It could be anybody in your life. It doesn't have to be a romantic partner that can be bullying you and gaslighting you and making you think you're wrong all the time or trying to.
Mhm.
Yeah. Wow, that's a lot of great insights. We
Yeah.
definitely thank you so much for, yeah, I don't know if did we miss anything? We're gonna have to make this a two-parter. Is there anything you
Yeah,
wanted to
yeah, no, you just had so much good information. And the thing about
Thank
the
you.
fairy, I didn't know all that stuff about the fairy, so it's definitely gonna, yeah, I'm gonna start leaving some treats out now.
I
Yeah.
love the fairies. Now, and I will say, bless his heart, husband number seven, he's really very crafty. So he's built all kinds of fairy houses and things. So here in my apartment, I have two. I have like two little, one's a little house, but it's mostly a bedroom. So I got like two bedrooms for different fairies. So,
Yeah,
you know,
that's so
Nice. Yeah,
interesting.
that is pretty.
yeah.
I love that.
Is there anything you wanted to touch on before we let you go? I mean, this 30 minutes has just flew by.
Yeah, that's good.
No, I would just tell people, keep open minds about all this stuff. And, again, for the relationship stuff, I've been on a lot of podcasts if you want to hear more about the narcissist or toxic relationships. And, you can get help for all that. You're not alone. So I want people to know that there's hope for dealing with that and surviving it. And just in general, I tell people it's never too late to change your life and get on a better path for yourself. So, I've done that twice. So, I'm 70, I'm still working on it, but it's never too late. And if you need help with the other stuff, message me, find me, email me, all that's on my website. So yeah, happy to
Yeah,
help.
that's
really
amazing.
good. That is
That's
really
amazing. That's really good insight. I appreciate that. And
Sure.
yeah, we just loved having you on our show. And yeah, I think we're good.
We'll put all your links in the
Oh, yeah.
description so everyone can
Definitely.
check it out, check out your books, message you with any questions,
Mhm.
and yeah, I'm sure
Right.
we'll keep in touch too. So
Yes.
thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
And
JoAnn.
yeah, stay warm with that snow.
It's been pretty cold here. I'm sitting here with a blanket on my lap. So yeah,
Oh.
thank you.
All right, you have
All right,
a great-
JoAnn.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, have a
All
good night.
right.
Okay. Bye now.
Bye.